Quisiera saber cuáles son tus próximos proyectos, si vas a seguir filmando o si tienes algo con algún grupo, algún cantante. Y dices que ya visitaste la Ciudad de México. Me gustaría saber qué conociste y qué fue lo que más te gustó.
Okay, I went to Mexico City to promote the Science of Sleep. And it was very fun because I was hanging out with Gael Casadelang, which is always fun because he wipes out all the pretty women. So if you don't want to see a pretty woman in front of you, you just walk with Gael Casadelang. They suck them in, vacuum cleaner, which is not great actually. We did a screening in this place that is the center of Mexico, the oldest place. You guys should know it. It was a big space. I forgot the name, and it was quite amazing. It's funny because when we screened the Science of Sleep there, I realized that it would not make a big success here. I didn't feel the audience connecting it. It was very interesting because I really thought it would work more strongly having Gael and so on. But it was very... the large audience didn't connect to this movie. I don't forget the rest of the question. Yes, if I was still doing music videos. Yes, I lately did a video for Björk. And I did video for small band. Sometimes I do video because I'm friends with the band. But it's very, I still like to do it very much.
Hello. I wanted to ask you, you are very imaginative and you have, you use a lot of resources in your movies, all kinds of resources. You don't just use special effects, you do things with your hands. And I think that's because you have a lot of imagination, and I wanted to know if there are some special activities that you recommend to do if you want to increase, like this way of seeing the world for someone who wants to become a filmmaker. What can he do or what can she do to have this different vision of things?
Well, thanks. But I think you can have work with digital technology, special effect in post-production, live imagination. It's just a lot of time this type of effect is used a little bit by being lazy, to not commit to your idea. And when you do effect in front of the camera or with object, you have to commit to the direction you're going to. And I think it's more courageous and it always pays off. It's more exciting as well because your actor sort of participate to the process and they can see how things are made and they belong to the same world because they can see it instead of shooting everything through screen where everybody has a different idea and you can tell that they don't really connect. In terms of how to develop imagination, that's a very complex question. It's not something necessarily I can climb. I mean, it seems that I have some idea or I have some imagination. And I remember being a kid and my parents telling me that I had imagination, so it sort of fed me with confidence on this department. I think if you take as a duty to produce something different, it's a sort of ethic that leads you to try to see things differently. And it's going to get people angry. A lot of people are angry at my work because they think I'm undisciplined, without Johnny Kaufman I cannot produce anything intelligent. And there's a lot of aggressivity toward somebody who tries to make things different. People think it's selfish sometimes. So you have to face that. On the other hand, sometimes I see people influenced by my work and I don't necessarily like what they do. A lot of people give me their DVDs. I'm sure I'm going to get sold today. And I watch them, and generally they get stuck into my computer, and I can't read them, and sometimes it's rare that I find something that it's too much like my work that I like. But I remember one time a guy showed me a film, and he was from my crew, and he had done this short film, and he said, Michel, you have to be really honest, and if you don't like it, you have to tell me. And I didn't like it at all. It was really embarrassing, because I thought he could beat me up if I said something too mean, and I don't like to be mean anyways. But he was very average, and this guy had something special, I felt. So he asked me for advice, and I remember that I was like completely out of my competency to give advice for a young filmmaker. I didn't feel I had really achieved anything anyway. But so I told him something. I told him, try to figure what makes you a different person from everybody else. And if you find that, make a movie about that. And I was like, oh, I was kind of proud to have found this nice comment to make, like an advice that could apply actually to anyone randomly. And in fact, he told me 1 year later he had applied my advice and he won the prize, a little fee prize. So I guess I had given him a good advice. In terms of developing your imagination, it's really. Well, for instance, on my side, a lot of time I misunderstand people, and I use that as a source of inspiration. Like when somebody is talking to me about something, and I really understand it completely upside down, and it makes no sense, and then I realize he meant something else, and then I feel like the idea that I made up from misunderstanding him belongs to me, so I use it, and it's a way to. Miscommunication could be very good for inspiration.
Well, hi. Here. First of all, thanks for coming here. It's such a pleasure to have you here in Morelia.
Thank you.
Personally, I love very much your work. And I have 2 questions. The first one, your work has been not very commercial. And why did you accept it? And how did you felt when you decided to film The Green Hornet? And what did you do to give this character your personal touch? And the other one, you use in your films like Science of Sleep some animation techniques like stop motion. And I was asking if you wanted to make some film entirely in animation, I don't know, using stop motion or other kind of animation. Have you thought of it?
Yeah, sure. I am actually working on it's actually something I sort of defined myself to do one day, is do a documentary in animation, which seems completely contradictory, but I did these interviews with linguist and philosopher Noam Chomsky, and I started the work to animate everything he said frame by frame, and I'm in the middle of doing that. So maybe it's going to be ready in 1 year. So, but I really love animation. There's nothing more liberating for me. I really started when I was actually editing The Green Hornet, and I had a lot of frustration going through the process. So I started to do this technique, which was just I had this 16mm camera that is you crank it by hand, and then you can shoot frame by frame. It's called a Bolex. It's very, very practical. And I draw on the light box with Sharpies, and I take a picture each time. It's very basic. But this, with his voice and his ideas, leads to something quite original, I think. So I really love doing that. What was the first question?
How did you felt, and why did you decide to film The Green Hornet?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's like very commercial movie.
Yeah, well, if the movie we're filming tonight, it's the Cameraman. It's not perfect, and I remember when I finished it, I didn't know if it was okay or not okay. It's very hard for me to have an opinion on my work, but I wanted to do something about communities, the sense of movies as something popular, not elitist, not like... so like for instance, all the movies they are making or remaking are very prominent blockbusters. So I always have this interest into big movies, like popular movies, but more the type that's not so serious. I mean, it's true that in the genre of superhero, since Batman was so successful, it has become like mandatory to have this darkness and this sort of epicness, which I don't like at all. And I think it's why it was a sort of a clash with a certain type of audience who likes this type of movies and what we did. On my side, I had worked on a project for the Green Net 15 years ago where it was really crazy and it was much more like my ideas, and it was not done by the studio. So when the project came back to me, it was a new story, and it was Seth Rogen and his writing partner, and I had liked very much Pineapple Express and Superbad, the two movies they just did together were a mix of it was the type of humor that I found I could work with. Now, when this confronted with the studio and the producer, when the Fast and Furious, it was an interesting mix, not the easiest mix to work from. And, but I did it until the end, and I sort of like it. A lot of people want to see it with their kids and liked it, and some people hated it. But I did his money back and more money, and so I didn't waste any white money, and I had a couple of times in the movie where I really enjoyed it, where all the camera is breaking everything apart. I would have liked to give more idea to the story, to make it a little more like me, but it was not possible.
Hello, Michel. I'm really interested in one of your characters, Stefan. When I first saw the leaflet, I was really drawn to this little broken-hearted boy. And then when I saw Les Sciences du Rêve, I don't know if they're linked, or if you can explain a little bit about the evolution of this little boy into Gael Garcia Bernal's Stefan.
Yeah, it was a feeling that I had. I had combined two periods of my life in writing the story, which was one when I was in Paris, and one when I moved to New York, and I had this crush on this woman who actually built the animal with felt and yarn. And it's really, we had this very strong creative connection. And on my side, it translated into something that I wanted more. That was not the case. I wanted to tell this story. And I pushed it a little bit in the sense of I was imagining how far I could go in my head. And I did stuff I didn't do in the film, although a lot of things Conversation was very close to what happened, but I pushed it a little longer, because I think each time I made a movie I realized a different use for me for the movie. So like for instance, for Science of Film, I could imagine things I could do without doing them, which was something I didn't think of before, and I thought it was pretty cool to have this capacity. Like for instance, one of my best friends died in the 80s, and with my son we wanted to dig him out, and it's illegal. And I thought it would be nice to do that in a movie, like you dig out your friend to revive him or something.